Jimmy Kimmel has been kicked off the airwaves after his gross lie during his monologue on Monday night.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them.
I hated that line, obviously, and so did many Americans. So while the backlash and anger boiled online, it also spread across the ABC affiliates across the nation. And by Thursday, it was announced that Jimmy Kimmel Live was pulled off the air. Now, instantaneously, the left was spinning the narrative against Trump, blaming him for the censorship of free speech. Now, naturally, I did have questions. How does the FCC rules work? Were things violated? Was our government responsible for the takedown? And throughout that research, I found a summary on X that I thought clarified the details well, so I'm just going to read that. Now, Kimmel insists he has been stripped of his free speech rights because his show was pulled from the air. This, too, is a misrepresentation. Over 50 ABC affiliates, led by major station groups Sinclair and Nexstar, informed Disney/ABC that they would not air Jimmy Kimmel Live due to its objectionable and misleading content. Both groups were explicit. They were exercising their rights under the FCC's right to reject rule. That rule guarantees affiliates cannot be forced to air programs they find unsatisfactory, unsuitable, or contrary to the public interest. Disney then placed the program on hiatus because losing so many affiliates meant losing the advertising revenue that sustains late-night television. This was a business decision, not censorship by the government. Kimmel's free speech claim collapses under legal scrutiny. The Supreme Court has long made it clear that neither entertainers nor networks have an absolute right to the airwaves. And specifically, even with the FCC guidelines, just to emphasize this further with facts, it says, quote, broadcasters cannot broadcast false information about a crime or catastrophe if it is known to be false and could cause substantial public harm. Which again, when Jimmy said that, he knew it was a lie. Sinclair Broadcast Group is even doubling down further, saying that they will run a remembrance special of Charlie Kirk during Kimmel's time slot tonight, which I imagine will pull far more views than Kimmel was getting. Which, by the way, from a business perspective, Kimmel was literally tanking. The New York Post called that out because it's important to note here when we're talking about a business decision. Jimmy Kimmel's late night show was bleeding viewers before Disney-owned ABC pulled the plug and suspended him for his comments on Charlie Kirk's assassination. Nielsen data shows sharp summer declines in a year-long slide that leaves him trailing late-night rivals such as Fox News' Greg Gutfeld and CBS star Stephen Colbert. According to the Nielsen figures, Jimmy Kimmel Live dropped to just 1.1 million total viewers in August 2025, down 43% from January's 1.95 million. His August household ratings of 0.35 marked the weakest showing of the year. So already, he has not been on his A game at all here. Frankly, this whole thing could have been a long time coming, and this was just used as the catalyst. So not only should that be considered in this conversation about Kimmel, but he also had plans to double down the following night. And his bosses got word and weren't having it, which when I heard that, I completely wanted to cover this story because, again, that just takes us into a whole other stratosphere. He was going to knock at MAGA again after he ticked them all off on Monday. He was just going to double down. Here's Jesse Waters talking more about that.
He falsely framed you for killing Charlie. Almost half of ABC's affiliates were threatening to black out his show that night. Advertisers were burning up the phones. ABC executives were getting flooded with emails. Disney boss Bob Iger wanted Kimmel to apologize, but Kimmel said, "No way, Bob."
Jimmy wanted to go on his show last night, and in his monologue, I hear that he wanted to address the backlash from the right regarding his commentary about Charlie Kirk's charged killer. And I hear that that monologue was very hot. It very much took aim at MAGA, and that is when the executives said, we can't have him go on the air tonight.
This didn't happen moments after he said those words. And it's so important to note here that he was going to double down. The audacity, gosh.
Little Jimmy Kimmel thought he was bigger than Disney, bigger than Mickey Mouse. Charlie Kirk's body isn't even buried, and ABC affiliates are refusing to air his show. They're on the brink of an advertiser boycott, and this guy's not even in first place. And he says, let's go another round. So the boss said, take a breather, Jimmy. You're costing us a fortune and making us look like we don't have a conscience.
Yep.
After the biggest assassination since Martin Luther King, the face of your network can't lie about the shooting and pin it on MAGA. Sounds like an easy call to me. But the left thinks America as a country is finished.
This is a major moment in American history. This is a crossing of the Rubicon.
There may be no democracy to save a year from now. This is a red alert moment.
If you're not paying attention now and doing something about it, well, then you're going to have to sit down the rest of your life because democracy is being taken away.
Reminder here, they're talking about Kimmel. not Charlie.
Ribs want libs to do something about it. Well, they already shot Trump and killed Charlie. What does he have in mind? Charlie Kirk got murdered in cold blood for speaking his mind. But a comedian getting suspended is the turning point in American history.
Upside down
Fang
world.
Fang's boy toy, who never fought for any of your jobs, is fighting for Jimmy's.
You are wearing a hat. What does that hat say?
You're damn right I am, John. I was a guest on the Jimmy Kimmel show. He, every night, has a right to come into any house that wants to watch and entertain Americans, just as Greg Gutfeld on Fox has a right to be not funny and go on his network and entertain.
You don't have a right to say whatever you want on network television. They're public airwaves. You're not going to get thrown in jail if you drop the F-bomb or crack an ethnic joke, but you're not going to last long. Network television has standards of decency, decorum, taste. Legally, what's on the public airwaves is supposed to serve the public interest. Lying about a crime is actually a big no-no on the networks.
What sent me into, frankly, a spiral last night was seeing Swalwell get up there with a Jimmy Kimmel Live hat. Like Jimmy is some kind of martyr, because they need their own martyr right now. Because this week has painted the left in a horrible light. Horrid. We as a nation right now are in mourning over the loss of the most vocal advocate for free speech and open debate in our country, frankly, potentially in the entire world, because he was killed by a leftist for speaking his mind. But now Kimmel has been canned, maybe just temporarily, maybe for good, but Kimmel has become their martyr. Now they're wearing hats in his honor, before Charlie is even buried. It feels so dystopian to me. It's like, let us quickly just recreate the last 9 days and paint our party and our side as the victims. Let us be the ones that suddenly claim danger and care for free speech. And just to highlight this even further, I saw this freaking clip from Brian Stelter, and I'm just going to play it for you guys quick before I talk about it.
But even though we're talking about comedy, this is so serious, Aaron. Yeah. America is a less free place if late night comedians cannot do and say what they want. Of course, they can be tuned out. People can change the channel. That's how we vote. That's how we have our say in America. But this really does have a chilling effect across the American media.
Do they hear themselves? That line from Brian right there should have come out of his mouth the moment that Charlie was shot in the neck. But I can still hear the silence from September 10th from them. Speech being outright stopped by a 30-06 didn't get them to wake up and cry for free speech protection. But Jimmy Kimmel making jokes about that free speech martyr. Jimmy is the one that gets to suddenly wake them up to the value of free speech. And then to try to pretend like the right suddenly doesn't care about free speech. I mean, heck, just yesterday I was talking about how the right immediately called out Pam Bondi when she made those stupid comments over hate speech. We call it out, just like we've been doing forever. And because of that, it's very easy for us to recall all the times that they were far from free speech absolutists. Let's just highlight a couple of those moments, okay? Kamala Harris, she was tweeting last night, well, we are witnessing an outright abuse of power. This administration is attacking critics and using fear as a weapon to silence anyone who speak out, blah, 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 blah. So she went on her rant about the attack on free speech via Jimmy. But someone pointed out the obvious. This you, let's be honest, at Real Donald Trump's Twitter account should be suspended. 2019. So it's a good, totally okay thing to silence the president of the United States. But if they can Jimmy for a couple weeks, that's what we need to be screaming free speech. The hypocrisy. That's why anything coming out of their mouths is just, we know where you stood a couple years ago. Don't pretend now. Harry Sisson, another perfect example. We are witnessing the most brazen attack on free speech in modern American history. And again, guys, they're referring to Jimmy Kimmel, not Charlie Kirk. I can't even believe that they're tweeting these things right now, just a week after Charlie. But Jimmy is the one that is causing this brazen attack on free speech, not the man who was out there freely speaking the moment he was killed. And then he goes, and MAGA said they were the free speech warriors. We are. Charlie was actively in that moment. What do you mean? I cannot believe how they're trying to rewrite this so quickly. Our side is the one getting killed for free speech. I'm trying to take a chill pill, but I can't. Sorry, not sorry. Harry Sisson, though, was reminded of a tweet that he had from a couple years ago. Happy 1-year anniversary of Donald Trump being banned from Twitter. Again, celebrating a sitting president being banned. But a sucky late-night comedy host getting canned for a couple weeks, that's their smoking gun. That's their moment of just absolute chaos and mourning. Shut up. Gavin Newsom, again, last night he tweeted, there's no such thing as free speech under Donald Trump's reign. But again, thankfully, I'll read a comment underneath it. By typing and clicking post, You are literally practicing free speech under Donald Trump's reign. Correct. Get off your high horses. If you really cared about free speech, where were you when Donald Trump got kicked off of Twitter and then nearly assassinated? Or when the FBI pressured social media companies to censor the New York Post reporting of the Hunter Biden laptop story? Or when big tech started shadow banning conservative voices? Jimmy Kimmel's employment and Charlie Kirk's political assassination are not the same thing. And I can't believe I even have to remind people of that and say that sentence, but based on the reaction from the left right now, you would think they've suffered a loss. So they can keep pretending like they suddenly care, but we know how they handled free speech the last time they were in power. I mean, I worked on Facebook for conservative media in 2022, while they silenced everything the average person said and did. Heck, on every social media platform. I was there. I witnessed it on a mass scale firsthand. So no, we have not forgotten that. So we can and should discuss free speech and how that applies to an employer making a corporate business decision about an employee refusing to listen to their bosses. But you know what isn't up for debate between whether or not it was a direct assault on free speech or an opportune corporate media business decision? The assassination of Charlie Kirk. Shooting someone because you hate him for his opinions is an unambiguous attack on free speech. So while some want to mourn the loss of Jimmy Kimmel on their TV screens for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to continue to mourn a true beacon of free speech. And I surely will be tuning in tonight for the Charlie Kirk tribute Sinclair is running during Jimmy's time slot. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you want more content like this, make sure to subscribe to this channel and like this video if you enjoyed it. For other content, you can also follow me on Instagram and X, as well as our brand new comment section Instagram. I'll see you in the next episode.